What's going on, Giants fans? Welcome back to Blue and Bold. And earlier this afternoon, the deadline passed for all NFL teams to cut their roster down to 53 players. At the start of the preseason, every team had 90, and now it is cut to 53. And the Giants released their initial 53-man roster as of today. There may be more moves coming, before week one, and even so on and so forth. But we have the initial 53-man roster after the results of the preseason games, and that's what the preseason games are there for. They show, many people try to compete. They try to make the 53-man roster, mostly UDFAs or late round picks. And there were certainly some prizes on who made this team for the New York Giants. So let's just start on the offense. Of course, you have the quarterback. You have obviously Russell Wilson. He's going to be your QB1 for week one. You have Jameis Winston coming in at, I'm not sure. Well, they haven't released a depth chart. This is just the roster. Obviously you have Jameis Winston there. We signed him earlier in the offseason on a 2-year deal, I believe. And then, of course, Jackson Dart, your first round pick. Not really surprised they kept three quarterbacks, and obviously we kind of knew that means the release of Tommy DeVito, which is honestly sad to see, as a New Jersey native, and I will never forget that three win streak that they had, which kind of cost us at Drake May and Jaden Daniels, but I'm happy with where we are right now with Jackson Dart. Let's just hope everything goes well with him. But yeah, that means Tommy DeVito has been released. Obviously, they'll probably try to get him back on the practice squad if he clears waivers, but in my opinion, I don't think he will clear waivers because there is some teams that are looking for a backup QB, such as the Patriots, maybe in the Jets, maybe looking for a quarterback three if anything doesn't go well with Justin Fields, barring injury and stuff like that. So yeah, it's sad to see Tommy DeVito go, but obviously it was the most obvious move. Going on with running backs, they stuck with three. I thought they were gonna go with four or possibly three, but one of the running backs I did not expect to make the roster, or maybe a possible cap cut candidate. Uh, Obviously you have your two starting running backs, Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatterboo, and then you still have Devin Singletary on the roster, which kind of makes sense because of the contract that we gave him a couple years ago, or last year I should say, sorry, and then that means Dante Turbo Miller has not made the 53-man roster, which I thought he would. I thought they were going to keep four running backs if they did not trade Devin Singletary or replace them for Dante Miller. But Dante Miller had an impressive preseason. I thought he earned his spot to make the roster. Uh, I'm pretty sure they will try to claim him on the practice squad if he clears waivers, which I don't think he will. That speed you just can't teach, right? He ran a 4.27. Teams are going to want to try to snag that. On the wide receiver side, there's a couple surprises here. Bo Collins made the roster, which is not really a surprise. We all know that the 80-yard bomb from Russell Wilson, which he got down at the one, which should have been a touchdown, but maybe I'm not really sure what happened there. But he did make the roster along with Jalen Hyatt, of course, Malik Neighbors. Gunnar Olszewski made the roster, which was kind of surprising because he came back from a season-ending injury last year, and he was replaced by Amir Smith-Marset, who did not make the roster. That's probably the biggest surprise of this of the initial 53-man roster from the New York Giants. And obviously, you have Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton. I'm not sure why Amir Smith-Marset was replaced with Gunnar Olszewski. I was happy with Amir Smith-Marset as a kick returner or a punt returner as such. But seems like Brian Dable and the coaching staff, they like Gunnar Olszewski better as a kick returner or punt returner, it seems. Or maybe they were just looking for a kick return and a punt returner, but also have some receiving upside, which makes sense because Gunnar Olszewski did have an impressive preseason as a slot receiver. Maybe that's what they're looking for. Maybe a backup slot receiver to Wan'Dale Robinson. But so, who knows? They know better than me, right? So, on the tight ends, they kept four, which I am surprised about that. I thought Daniel Bellinger was going to be cut one way or another, or at least if they were going to keep four tight ends, I thought they were going to cut Daniel Bellinger and keep Greg Dulcich, who did not make the 53-man roster, even though he had an impressive preseason. So you have Theo Johnson, you have Chris Manhertz, he's going to be your blocking tight end, of course. Thomas Fidone, the 7th-round pick, and then you have Daniel Bellinger coming in. Surprisingly, to me, at least to me, he was surprised. I'm not, Joe Shane, he likes to keep his draft picks on the team, and rightly so. You don't want to get rid of a 4th-round draft pick from your first year in the regime. The offensive linemen, they kept 10. I thought they would keep 9. I thought Austin Slotman was not going to make the roster for Like if I were to pick one man out, it would be Austin Slaman, but they kept him. So your 10 offensive linemen are Jermaine Illuminor, James Hudson, Marcus Bowe, of course, Evan Neal. It looks like he did enough to make the roster. John Runyon, Austin Slotman, John Michael Schmitz, Aaron Stinney, Andrew Thomas, of course, and then, of course, Greg Van Roten. So those are your 10 offensive linemen. It seems like we have better depth finally than what we had in previous years. Of course, that was a big issue in previous years, with Andrew Thomas going down, and we have to be signing Justin Pugh off the couch a couple years ago. And of course, you don't want that to happen again. So Joe Shane, he made that a priority this offseason. He went out and signed depth. He just got whoever was best available. We had Stone Forsythe signed early this offseason, but he did not make the roster. There's other people I'm missing, but yeah, I thought Stone Forsythe was probably not going to make the roster with the preseason performance that he had. It was pretty bad. James Hudson was also bad, but we gave him a 2-year, $12 million contract for some unknown reason. So obviously James Hudson is basically forced to stay on this roster. Moving on to the defense, we have 7 cornerbacks. 7 cornerbacks is actually, I thought, like, that's more than I thought it would be. I thought they would keep at least at most 6. But you have Paulson Adebo, of course, Deontay Banks, Corey Black, the 6th-round pick, Cordell Flott, of course, Art Green, which made the two preseason standout corners made this team. Nick Jones and Art Green. I thought Art Green was going to make this roster. He showed some nice run defense and tackling these past couple preseason games. And, of course, Drew Phillips, the outstanding rookie from last season. Safeties is pretty surprising. They only kept 3, but I believe they will make a move these coming weeks before week 1. But as of now, your 3 starting safeties, well, not starting safeties, but your 3 safeties are Dane Belton, Javon Holland, and Tyler Nubin. Javon Holland's going to be your free safety while Tyler Nubin is your strong safety. Dane Belton can interchange between the two of them. Your outside linebackers, of course, they only kept 3. Kayvon, Burns, and Carter. A notable cut was Trace Ford. He had an impressive preseason, but obviously it did not work for them. And along with Timon Fox, I believe they were battling for the 4th linebacker spot, but it just didn't work out. I guess they wanted to keep 3, and they believe in their 3. And who blames them, right? You have 3 first-round picks there. That's a lot of investments, especially what you made with Burns. You signed him to a mega extension once you signed him and traded picks for him. The inside linebackers, they kept 5, mostly because of special teams and depth reasons. So you have Bobby Okereke, Micah McFadden. Those are going to be your 2 starting linebackers. Darius Muasau, the 7th round, I believe 6th or 7th round pick from last year. He had one of the only picks that the Giants had in week 1. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, he was a linebacker. I didn't even see his name in preseason. I don't know why he made the roster. And Chris Board, the free agent that they signed early this offseason, mostly a special teams ace. So obviously that makes sense, right? And I believe who else did not make this roster? Of course, we had the safeties. Raheem Lane didn't make the roster. I thought he had a pretty impressive preseason, but who knows? I still believe a move is coming for the safeties. But yeah, that's our inside linebackers. The defensive line, of course, we have Darius Alexander. DJ Davidson made the roster, surprisingly. I thought he wasn't. He did have a sack in the first week of the preseason. Chauncey Goldston, of course. Of course, you have Dexter Lawrence coming in. Rakeem Nunez-Roches, of course. And then Roy Robinson-Harris, who had an impressive preseason. I don't believe he was going to get cut, but he did show why we did sign him, because of his run defense, and that was a major hole on our defense last season. Of course, we led the league in sacks at one point, but our rush defense was just so abysmal, and I believe we just led the league in most rushing yards allowed. So, of course, it's good to have Roy Robinson-Harris here. One person that did not make the roster, which got me kind of upset, was Elijah Chapman, right? The UDFA out of, I actually don't know what college he went to. I have to look that up. But yeah, he was UDFA last year. He had an impressive couple of games in the regular season, and he had an impressive preseason, but not as a defensive tackle. He did have some nice plays at defensive tackle. There was a mic'd up video about him. And then they just cut him the day after, which doesn't make sense to me. But what he's mostly getting the noise for was taking first team reps at fullback. In this training camp vids, and you saw some snaps in the later games of the preseason. So maybe Elijah Chatman will get claimed on the practice squad if they clears waivers. He probably will, or I hope he will. And then, of course, you have your special teams players. Of course, your kickers, Graham Gano, long snappers, Casey Kreider, and your punter is Jamie Gillen. So that covers the 53-man roster. People that I wanted to make it, I believe Lil Jordan Humphrey, he should have been, I believe, if they kept 7 wide receivers, he was the odd man to make that team. I believe Lil Jordan Humphrey had a good season. Not good season, a good preseason. Montreal Washington, the outstanding preseason standout from preseason, the slot receiver. He didn't make it. Kayvon Wallace didn't make it, the safety. But yeah, other than that, that's our initial 53. Of course, moves can be made after the fact. So if what's a move happens, then that 53-man roster will be changed, of course. But yeah, our next game is in about a week and a half. We verse the Commanders in week 1. And man, I just cannot wait until the NFL season starts. It's been too long without football. And without football, like, what's the point of life? If you guys like this video, make sure you guys comment, subscribe, like the video. And yeah, I can't wait to see you guys week 1. Let's go Big Blue.